Typal, or what was referred to as tribal, is a thematic way of building your decks which revolves around a specific tribe or a group of creatures that all share the same creature type. They've recently renamed this to be called Typal. Don't know why. Was the name that they gave to it internally. And I think it is a true representation of what it is meaning. So serving as a type, representative, or typical. So, typically this tribe or typically these sort of creatures. So when you usually think about tribes in Magic, what comes to your mind? You might say dragons, or zombies, elves, or perhaps vampires. However, what if I told you that there was a tribe that acted like, let's say, a hive of wasps? Individually, they're not as terrifying, one or two you can deal with, but when you piss them all off and they all swarm at you all at once, it's a lot. And you essentially want to burn down the house and leave it. You know what I mean? So, such a tribe is Slivers. Now, in the recent set, there are 4 new Commander precons, and one of them is called Sliver Swarm, a 100-card, ready out of the box deck revolving around this tribe called Slivers. The Sliver Swarm Commander deck revolves around the Commander Sliver Gravemother. So for WUBRG, Sliver Gravemother is a 6/6 legendary sliver, which says the legend rule doesn't apply to slivers you control. Each sliver creature in your graveyard has Encore X, where X is its mana value. And this, Sliver Gravemother also happens to have Encore 5. Now, for those of you that don't know what Encore does, well, firstly, it's on the screen. However, it essentially means you can play the creatures from your graveyard for its Encore cost, and when you do, the card is exiled, and you create a token for each of the opponents you're playing against. Now, Sliver Gravemother was spoiled a long time ago, and it got people thinking that there would be a few other slivers, legendary slivers, in the 99. Unfortunately, they didn't put the correct one in there. Wizards, you fucking cowards. Now, the other slivers that are popularly used for this tribe are Sliver Hivelord, Sliver Legion, Sliver Overlord, and the first Sliver. Of course, you would think, being a Sliver deck, that these would all be in there, but you'd be mistaken. Of the 5 previously available Slivers, only one of them made the cut, and that being Sliver Hivelord. But nonetheless, we did get a new 5-color Sliver Commander to play with, and oh boy, is she going to be fun. So, Sliver Queen, being the commander, Premier Commander, carries hefty price tag. This bad girl came out a long, long time ago, and she's never been reprinted since. And I believe she is on the reserved list as well. These days, she goes for $330 US. Now, like in every precon, we also get a backup commander. And this backup commander for the Sliver deck is Ruka Biologist. Now, I know what you're thinking, she's not a Sliver, but wait until you read her text. So for WUBRG, Ruka is a 3/3 legendary human wizard that says, when she enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Slivers you control and non-token creatures you control are the chosen type in addition to their other creature types. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. And she also has the ability to pay 3 and tap and create a 1/1 colorless Sliver creature token. Oh boy, this commander is going to be making a huge splash, or should we say slither. Do slivers slither? Now, the key thing to look for here is the fact that Ruka turns all non-token creatures we own or control into the type we want. So this includes the ones that are in our library, in our graveyard, and in our hand. Tribal, anyone? I, for one, am very excited to see the direction that people take Ruka and I'm personally going to be building her myself. Now, having discussed the 2 commanders, let's look at some of the new Sliver cards that came out with the precon. We've got Regal Sliver. It introduces and never shares the Monarch. We've got Taunting Sliver, goading and goading till the sun comes up. We've got Lazotep Sliver, pumping out an army token that would make even orcs blush. And finally, we've got Capricious Sliver, generating insane card advantage. Did I say finally? I was wrong. There is in fact one last Hatchery Sliver. Now, this bad boy makes everything else in our deck even more amped, and I think, arguably, this is the strongest sliver that they've printed in this recent set. So, the key thing here to pay attention to is that replicate ability. So, whenever you casting one of these sliver spells, you can pay this replicate cost, and it essentially allows you to, duplicate the number of those casts that you have. So, let's say you wanted to play Hatchery Sliver, for example. It allows you to pay it for 2 mana, but then you can also pay an additional 1 and then a green, and you can play it as many times as you like, and you'll get that many extra copies of Hatchery Sliver.
Ooh, that's a bingo!
Now, I don't need to tell you that this is absolutely bonkers. This is essentially like adding gasoline to a fire in a Sliver deck, and I am very much looking forward to adding this into my deck as well. Now, for the cards that aren't just Sliver-based and could go in potentially a myriad of other tribal decks. First off, we've got Titan of Littjara, an absolute powerhouse of a draw engine. He doesn't know what he wants to be, so he's kind of decided to be anything we want him to be. So he essentially allows himself to be entering in the battlefield as any creature type we choose. So, he could be a Sliver, he could be a dragon, he could be a zombie, he could be a vampire. And when he enters the battlefield, he'll allow you to draw a card for each other creature we control that share a creature type with him. And then, of course, you have to discard 1. So as long as you're casting him with at least one other creature on the field, you'll at least get 1 other card. And then the value just goes up from there. The next card we got is Descendants Fury. Now, this one says, whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice one of them. And if you do, you reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card that shares a creature type with that sacrifice card. And then you put the rest of them on the bottom of your library. So essentially this is like another card, I think it's called Descendants Path, which allows you to just keep going through your library as you keep hitting people in an aggro way and keep bringing out these strong creatures. Now, they're clearly alluding to something by the art itself with the dragons there. And I definitely do think this deck would do well with this card, but other decks out there like dragons and zombies and elves will love this even more. Finally, we've got For the Ancestors. So essentially you choose a creature type, and then you look at the top 6 cards of your library, and then you can reveal any number of the cards that you've seen from those 6, the creature of the type, and then you get to put those in your hands, and the rest of them go into the bottom of your library. Now, the really good thing about this one is that it has flashback, 3, and then green. So you can obviously play it once, and then you can play it again later on if you've then built up a board after, playing the cards you got from the first iteration. And there you have it, the new Sliver Precon coming out in Commander Masters. It's overall a very fun deck with some powerful and fun new cards that'll be sought after for many players' decks. The land base is, let's say, nothing to write home about, but it's an easy place to upgrade, and Wizards loves to do this with precons. They give players the chance to make some easy-to-see upgrades, and once you do those, you feel like you're a really good deck builder, and it builds your confidence and allows you to get more into it. If you want to see the whole list, please check the description down below, where we'll link it for you. Now, I do want to caution you before I leave, because there are some things to keep in mind if you're looking to play this precon or build a Sliver deck yourself. Now, the first thing is about Sliver Hive. Now, this is a land that many players were disappointed was not included in the precon. This is because this is the only land, as far as I'm aware, that directly affects slivers themselves. So obviously we can pay that 5 and make a 1/1 sliver. Not a great rate, but a rate, and it comes on a land. But also, it also allows us to make any color mana we like to play a sliver spell. And as we saw, almost all of our commanders that we'd want to play are 5 colors. So it's a very good card. And unfortunately, as I said, it wasn't in the precon. Now, with the announcement of the precon and the deck list, the price of this card has jumped extraordinarily. It's now sitting at $35 US roughly. But as you can also see, it is going down. So if you really do want to upgrade your decks, I would say hold off on purchasing this one. More than likely it'll come out in a precon or something like that in the future, or it'll be reprinted in a set, just because they've done slivers now, so they'll probably want to support it a little bit in the future. And also, those people that used to have a Sliver Hive and they thought, I'm never going to play it, see the price of it and they'll want to take it out and sell it. So keep an eye on the prices and then buy it once it's lower. Don't do it now. It'll be a waste of money. And the last thing I want to talk about is these guys, Sliver Queen and Sliver Overlord. These are the two original slivers that originally came out, Sliver Queen coming out first before Sliver Overlord, and they have built a reputation for slivers as being a very mean and unfun deck to play. Obviously, Sliver Queen is very strong. She can pay 2 mana and make a 1/1 sliver, and as we see, slivers are all about those anthem effects, so this just gets out of hand really easily. And Sliver Overlord is literally a tutor in the command zone, and he also allows you to steal other people's creatures if you can turn them into a sliver. Now, both of these commanders, this less so for Sliver Queen, are strong, but they're nothing compared to the sort of commanders that we see these days. However, a lot of players, especially those who've played the game for a long time, have lost to these decks and have had many bad experiences with these decks. So don't be surprised if you sit down across the table from someone and you say, hey, I'm going to play slivers, that they try and focus you initially. You know, you can try and reason with them, but more than likely they'll just have a unreasonable amount of hatred towards you. So I would advise playing accordingly and trying to add some protection and redundancy into your deck. But having said all that, it's time to hear from you. What do you think? Are you going to be pre-ordering the Sliver Swarm deck? What cards in the deck are you most hyped for? And please stay tuned for our videos, as we are going to be talking about all the precons, and then hopefully we'll be doing some IRL Magic content in the coming days and weeks. But until next time, don't forget to pay rent.